We'll now begin with questions. Members are limited to 5 minutes, but we may have some additional rounds. I'll recognize myself for the first round of questions. Mr. Wilson, thank you so very much for traveling all the way out from La Paz County out here to Washington, D.C. Under the current process, most counties get little to no money from solar and wind power generation that takes place within their borders. Energy development on public lands takes a toll on your county roads, requires the use of precious water resources, can disturb scenic views. Federal lands are also not taxable. I know you touched on this in your testimony, but given these factors, doesn't it make sense that local governments receive a share of the revenues from the sale of energy production that takes place within their borders?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Gosar, it makes absolute sense. The counties are mandated to provide certain services to their citizens, including public safety, health, and public welfare. Providing those services all take money, and the additional burden placed by these industries on lands that don't pay taxes is a critical part of being able to adequately provide those services to our residents.
So also the expedited permitting process, how would that help the counties?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Gosar, as stated by Mr. Fitzer, Arizona wants to be the solar capital of the world. The state and counties have all taken steps to expedite processes and make sure that everybody is aware that we are open for business. And part of that is expediting our internal processes so that businesses can be responsive and the county government can be responsive to the need of those businesses. We recently had an industrial client that needed a rezone, and with advertising and other requirements, we were able to get that rezone through the entire process in less than 2 months. That's the kind of responsiveness that we would like to see from all aspects of government if possible.
So it really helps in creating an environment for jobs, right?
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Now, some of the revenues that are returned to the county, would some of these be used for education?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Gosar, I would anticipate that most of the revenues at this point would probably go for infrastructure. Cost shifts and sweeping of HERF funds that have occurred in Arizona have severely impacted the county's ability to maintain roads, and we're pretty much behind the 8 ball. Our public works fleet of small vehicles right now all have over 200,000 miles on them. Those vehicles are going to need to be replaced. We have county roads that where we've had to extend grading and maintenance schedules. We need to get caught up on those. There's no doubt in my mind education in Arizona does need some help. But it's not a mandated service to the county at this point. We need to focus on those mandated services.
But it returns the revenues to the county that they can have jurisdiction on where to appropriate those funds.
I'm sorry?
So it would appropriate the funds back to the county so you'll have dictation of where those funds go.
Yes.
Gotcha. Mr. Fitzer, can you elaborate on how HR 596 will help Arizona become that solar capital of the world? We kind of want to move Germany on out of there.
Mr. Gosar, basically, when you look at the amount of federal and public lands in Arizona, and you look at our development patterns specifically around the Phoenix metropolitan area and even other areas of the state, you start pushing out into a lot of areas that are federally controlled, state controlled, and so forth. When you start looking at needed infrastructure, specifically for power, transmission, and so forth, you always end up touching public lands. With the push out of our development patterns, you'll start seeing these public lands become more viable, suitable, and more needed for this type of infrastructure, specifically solar development.
So this would actually incentivize states and counties so they're sharing, because they're sharing on the revenue, to help expedite, but also be very cognitive of the streamlined process. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, Mr. Gosar. And in fact, when I worked for a community, we always tried to keep all the development within our community so that we could get the taxable property and basically the secondary property tax and so forth for those. And in fact, when we had developers come to us at the time, because we weren't able to share in royalties, we'd actually try to get them over to private lands as opposed to any type of public land. What this bill does is actually incentivize the state, local communities, the counties, and so forth to development of public lands because they're able to share in those royalties, as well as Mr. Wilson stated, being able to pay for infrastructure.
Thank you very much.